Okay, this is Geek Pro interview test one. My answer to the question, how did Providence come to be? After graduating from college, I moved up to Chicago. I moved in with a buddy. I guess he was a buddy. He was more of an acquaintance of mine, I guess, from the theater program that I graduated from at Valpo. We moved in together in Chicago, and because we didn't really know each other that well, we kind of started telling each other, our stories about um, friends and high school and ex-girlfriends and almost exes, I guess, or almost girlfriends, I should say. And we each had a story that was very kind of similar about an almost, I guess you could call it. And I mean, they were so similar. We were like, wow, we should kind of make a story out of this because at the time I had written for school, I'd written like a 10-minute play based on mine. So we kind of took that as a kind of a jumping off point and decided to combine our stories. And originally I think we made it about one character, and then we made it about two character going through similar stories together, and then we really changed the second character. Like my character kind of stayed the same with the same storyline, um, and Aaron's character kind of morphed into more of what what he saw for himself like in 5 years. So it was kind of more like what he saw, maybe his relationship. It's like I was dealing with what my relationship issues had recently been. He was dealing more with what he thought his could be. So we just started writing, and the way that we wrote, we we tried to emulate some of our favorite screenplays. We had copies of the screenplays for like Good Will Hunting and The Usual Suspects. I think Reservoir Dogs and American Beauty was a big one too. And then we just played out scenarios. Like we would turn on the tape recorder and we would just kind of play out a scene. We'd improv a scene back and forth between the guys. And I think sometimes we'd even do it with like playing, somebody else in a scene, whether it was the boss or wife or the girlfriend or whatever. So we would record those improv sessions and then basically transcribe them and tweak them here and there, add in stage directions and things like that. And that's actually how we came up with, I would say, most of the first draft of the script that we eventually called Providence. I would have to say that Aaron probably came up with the title because it seems a little bit more one-sided towards his viewpoint now that I think about it. But Providence being that kind of God's foreknowledge or the universe's foreknowledge or some kind of like it, so it has to do with kind of like, wow, that's nice hair, Mike. Kind of like faith and fate, kind of like going with, one of my favorite movies like is Serendipity. So it was kind of going off of that same type of, one word fate title. So we went Providence because our movie had more of a religious spin to it. But we started recording music for it because they were in a band, and probably my favorite story from at least from that part of it is the big song that Aaron's character in the movie, whose name is Jake, plays for his wife, kind of like his "I Love You" song to her. Came about as a result of an argument, a dumb, really really dumb argument that Aaron and I had over a poker game. We were playing poker in the living room of our apartment. He went to make a bet, or like I think to call a bet, and then so he called a bet and then he raised on top of it without starting too much of a fuss. I basically said to him, I was like, that's cool here, but if you're ever playing, against strangers or in a more professional, like if you're at the casino or something like that, you can't do that. It's considered kind of cheating because you can call and then based on people's reaction to your call, if you're looking for tells, then you could be, oh, I'm going to raise. And that's seen as kind of cheating, or at least frowned upon. And so I'm explaining this, and Aaron's like, "Oh, well, I just wanted, and he got very defensive very quickly to the point where he grabbed his chips, threw them on the floor. We were actually playing on the floor at the time. Threw them on the floor, and stormed out of the living room into his bedroom, slams the door, grabs his guitar, pissed off. But Aaron had a way of getting of kind of blowing up and then like coming down real fast and getting kind of embarrassed that he blew up. So he started writing the song. It was like an "I'm sorry" type of song because he felt so stupid about blowing up over a roommate poker game. He came out of his room to be like, "Hey man, like I'm sorry, but like, hey, I came up with this thing, and it wasn't directly to me. I don't think it was, it was one of those things where like you kind of feel stupid about one situation that gets you thinking about another situation, and he was kind of reacting to all of it. So he played it for me, and I'm sure this is probably my version of it, and his version he might remember it a little bit differently. I'm not sure. But as far as I can remember, he played it. I definitely liked it, and I said, what, I feel like, if we change this word here or there, that this would work really well for the character. But it was just like the funniest thing to, and it was a song that came about because of a blow up between roommates that became a song about. From his character's point of view to his wife. So there was that. Another kind of an interesting behind the scenes thing, I guess, would be that there's a scene in the movie where Jake's character kind of has his breakdown. We tried to have these kind of these music video type scenes in the movie when we were involving music, just to kind of give it more of a kind of a theatrical edge to it. Insofar as we wanted them to be scenes that you could kind of like chunk out of the movie and play on their own, and they would play as music videos, very much so. In the movie, he walks into the church, music video starts, very, like imagery coming up, and his, like from his memories, and like falls down to his knees and stuff like that, and all this, slow motion stuff, and while the music's playing. Originally, in the script, that same scene happened with this long, drawn out monologue, and it was this whole thing of him trying to come to terms with his faith and having this conversation with God, as many of us have done. So, you go into church, or you go into, like you go to pray, and it comes out just as this conversation, as if you could have this kind of give and take, and that's what and it was very long, and it was Aaron just kind of pouring his heart out on the page, with things that he had gone through or had been going through, and it was one of those things where you could tell it was really heartfelt, but it absolutely stopped the movie in its tracks. It was probably therapeutic for him, and it was meant to be therapeutic for the character, but it was just too much. And I definitely thought the scene didn't play well. It was just too, it was one of those things where okay, we get the idea, we have to move on. So when Aaron had come up with a song that he called Prayer of Silence, it was a really kind of short song. It was like minute 20, maybe minute 30, something like that. And I was like, it's really, because it has this kind of like slow build up, and I'm falling and I'm crawling and stuff like that, and it, up to like I'm falling, I'm crawling, like right, real kind of more of a boisterous chorus. I was like, that's his breakdown. That right there encapsulates his breakdown. I think we should put that in the movie, and I think we should take this monologue out. I think that was a really difficult choice for Aaron, and he eventually did agree. I mean, I say eventually, it's not like it was a month. I think he considered it for a while, and he said, you know what, let's try it, and we agreed that it worked better. And I think that was very like I said, very difficult for him because he was kind of letting go of a part of the movie that I think at the time was really important to him. So I commend him for that. That was another like kind of little interesting thing. There's a lot of interesting stories to that movie, but anyway, that's my first little bit about Providence. This is my first test of the GoPro camera as an interview tool, and we'll see how the editing goes. All right, cool.